are live. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Abel Perez.
Jose Rodriguez.
Rohi Zachariah.
And this is the weekly Jargon. And this is the Jargon before Christmas.
The Jargon before Christmas.
So, fellas, it feels like... it feels a little interesting. We've had some slews of rain come a little bit sooner than what I'm kind of used to. And so, the weather's, I think this is almost like a true winter this year for me. So I'm definitely getting that sense of, Christmas. We don't get snow here in the valley, the Central Valley at least. But you guys all ready for your Christmas week next week?
It's fast approaching, and sometimes, it's hard not to think that this has become so cyclical now, that it happens so fast. Just last year, we were having the same conversation, and I think when we first launched our podcast, we were talking about topics such as like Christmas. Is it overrated? Are the gifts and what have you? And here we are again. New topics, obviously, but kind of, it's just like like I woke up and hey. This was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but the time flies pretty quick. Again, it's a new year that it's fast approaching. Christmas, hopefully it brings a lot of joy for a lot of people. And this is a time where people get that feeling of the seasons, right?
Yeah. I think this year is a little rough because it's not that cold. I think the global warming people are catching on, but I like it. I'd rather be in short sleeves during winter than parka.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's always kind of the thing. Like Thanksgiving, you're outside. I mean, we're always we're golfing during this time of year. I mean, we're pretty spoiled here in the valley, but. Jose, you were touching on something where it's like, hey, this is definitely a holiday that has been consumed by large corporations, right? And so consumer spend, from the banking perspective, consumer spends at all-time high. And so we're seeing the appetite for products, and people are out there spending a lot of money. How will that, debt that is being accumulated translate here in the spring and summer when we start seeing data roll out? That'll be certainly interesting, certainly something to look out for. We're three fathers. In case you guys didn't know, we're all fathers, and we have, we've shared what do we get the kids for Christmas, things like that in the past, and it's always that. I find myself in an interesting predicament right now where it's like, I know the answers, right? I know that, it's, save and the kids don't need all the extra stuff and you don't have to go, real fancy and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of feel myself being squeezed. And Jose, I know your kids are a little bit older, so you could probably relate a little bit more than Rohi. Rohi, you still have some time under your kids' belt. But like, my oldest is 15, and I only have 3 more years of, I only have essentially 3 more Christmases before he's 18, and what happens there? Is he off to college? Is he wanting to come home for Christmas? And so 3 more Christmases of putting, dad putting gifts under the tree, watching him open them with his brothers, and really just being a kid. And that is tugging at my heartstrings, and it's making it very difficult to make smart decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Like financial decisions. It's like, man, I want to get him this stuff, and I'm at the store. Oh, he'd like that, and so it's this tug of war between we always want to do what's right, but man, sometimes we, time's gonna go. And what happens at that time? Am I going to regret not doing what I wanted to do in the moment? Give me some help, guys.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it dead on, and I think we've just been, over just looking at the promotions of Christmas and how they advertise Christmas. It certainly makes you feel that way. The emotional connection you have with, hey, my kid. I've been getting. These hits on Amazon with wallets to my son. And if I read it, I go, man, this is exactly what I feel about my son. So I go out there and I bought him a wallet. And it said everything. Ask me what he's done with that wallet. I've done nothing with it. But it's engraved in there. It said, hey, to my son that I love very much. But, again, we get caught up on that emotional impulse of saying, you know what, I do this. I want to show him how much I care for him, how much I love him. My daughter, no different. And I think, there was a time where I fought it. I was being the Grinch. I was telling my wife, why do we need to go through this stuff if they have everything they need? They have all the shoes that they need. They have the clothing that they need. They have everything that they need. We don't want to get them conditioned to think that, hey, every Christmas you're expecting a toy that essentially you probably won't use. You go through these toy drives now. I want to say, and I'll say this, I think the toy drives that were done at one time were really in need for a lot of kids, but now they're so inexpensive that there's just an abundance of them, and then everybody's doing that. So you can imagine the multiplier effect. If every organization is doing a toy drive, you don't even know where the hell to drop them off at anymore. That's the crazy thing about it, and it comes down to where these kids, I think, I'm like you, Abel. I don't want to miss out that opportunity, because if I do, I'm afraid that I'll in my head or somewhere in there, I'll be thinking, I had that opportunity to get that smile in him and I didn't do that. Yeah. Do you really think? If I look back at what my dad got me, I remember he got me a calculator. Out of all things, my kid brother had a Skeletor and the Panther that went with it.
Was it a graphing calculator? Those are pretty expensive. Those were expensive back then.
And if my dad ever watches this, you'll probably see, what did he say? Can you translate that for me, calculator? And I go, yeah, but you know what?
He thought it was a cell phone.
Yeah, back then. I was a little bit older, of course, but you still had that expectation. I can still remember that. But if I go back and look at this and I go, you know what? We had a pretty good life, regardless of the gifts that I got that I didn't get. I think we did okay. Would my dad have surprised me if I had a He-Man maybe or something like that? I don't know that if I would remember that as much as I remembered what he got with the calculator. I just didn't know how to react to a calculator at the time, right? Maybe that's a therapy thing.
I think we just uncovered something deep there. Some repressed memories there.
When I think of Christmas, it's just like your birthday too, but I think it's about your memorable ones. Like you said, not every year is going to be memorable. You're not going to say, well, I remember this year and I remember that next year.
Yeah.
I think you have those pockets of saying, I remember this year because like you said, this was something that was unique or different that made it special. And I don't think you can go in every year expecting that. You just can't. You can't keep topping yourself. And at some point, you're going to run out of steam, So I think it's just great. We try to remind our kids again, like we've talked about, what is Christmas? What's it for? And in, like you said, in these times, maybe it's just about helping somebody else, like you said, the toy drives. I think a lot of kids don't realize that there are people that don't even have a Christmas tree. They don't have a gift. They don't even get a Christmas dinner. It's just a normal day for them, because there's no financials there. So I think that's kind of the power of remembering what Christmas is about. The Santa Claus that we're working with, it was amazing. The response, people want to give, and it's going to be nice to be able to finally give some of those kids those gifts. So
yeah, and I'll take you back to we grew up around a housing authority project in Planada, and I remember there was a drive. So I think your local police officers came by or sheriffs. Mm-hmm. They brought all these toys, right? And you had all these kids lined up ready to pick a toy. And my brother, love my brother. He had the opportunity to select this 3-wheel cycle, right? At the time, that was it. Everybody in that neighborhood had a 3-wheel cycle, that big old front wheel.
Big wheels.
And big wheels, yeah. And he was too shy to go out and get it. I practically wanted to do it for him, but they said, come on, here you go. And he didn't want to get it, And I remember that during that time, it's not like our parents would say, hey, we're going to buy you this Hot Wheels or what have you, but it was an opportunity for us as kids to get something outside of obviously we wanted all these things. It's like you said, the financials wouldn't allow it. But, I remember that because I said, man, it was great for this organization to come by and provide to these kids, us, an opportunity to select a gift that otherwise we wouldn't have had. Our parents did a good job of trying to get us here and there, but it wasn't like, we all knew that we didn't have a lot, and we never really, we knew we didn't have a lot, but we also didn't know what a lot was because we all grew up in the same social economic.
That's a good segue into one thing. Something else I wanted to talk about because the world's a lot smaller than it was. Is a lot smaller today than it was back then, right? Mm-hmm. Because you only knew what you were surrounded by.
Correct.
Back in Jose's times when there was no internet. and cell phones and stuff like that, right?
The phone was a string, right? It was still
Yeah, it
tiny
was a
from-
string. No, I mean, cell phones have really come out to like, they weren't really like a normal thing till I was already in high school myself. So like my elementary years, that stuff didn't exist either. But nowadays, you know, our kids, I would say as early as, you know, 4th, 5th grade, have cell phones. And with TikTok and YouTube, they know exactly what they're missing out on. They know exactly what is not trending and what is trending, you know? And so even when you get them that toy, let's call it the Big Wheel, but maybe it wasn't that Big Wheel brand, it's still disappointing because, oh, well, it's not this brand. You know, it's the concept or it's the item, but it's not, you know, it's the cell phone, but it's not the iPhone, right? Rohi still hasn't got himself an iPhone. But so I wanted to get you guys' opinion because here locally in Madera Unified, they are going to start implementing the no cell phone policy, right? And so I don't know if you guys have ever gone to a concert or a comedy show and they make you put your cell phones in a bag and you're unable to access that cell phone. There's a special key that unlocks it. And so the concept would be students show up and as they're going through the detectors looking for weapons, they're also inputting their devices in these pouches and make the devices inaccessible to them until the end of the day, right? Now, naturally, the idea is, well, we're eliminating distraction and we're preventing a lot of the issues that have been brought by the use of cell phones, right? Whether that be, bullying or, social, influences that, that go about, like we're talking about, being materialistic, and all the way up into, the nitty gritty where, people are sending pictures of themselves, things like that, right? So in order to eliminate those things, this is a solution that many districts have been adopting. And it seems to be the direction that Madera Unified's going into. On the flip side, you have parents saying, well, I need to be able to access or contact my children. They need to be able to communicate back. And that's a luxury that a lot of people have grown accustomed to, especially in the wake of, some of the issues that we've seen in schools, shootings and things like that. So you guys got any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're marching to is a system that's already in place, Abel. It's called jail, and you're not allowed to have a cell phone. And if you need to communicate, there's a phone on the wall,
right?
Like it used to be when we went to high school. I don't know about you, but there was a payphone on the wall that you grabbed and you called mom and dad, and you said, "This is what I need," And all joking aside, I mean, it is sad that we have to start treating school like a jail. I mean, I don't know about in other areas, but most of our schools are high fenced, high security. Really hard to get in and out. Like you said, limitations on what you can eat and drink and do, and So I agree with it. I mean, obviously, to have a distraction-free environment seems like it would be a lot more conducive to a learning environment. But you do get to that point of, how far is too far, But if it's about communication, I remember every classroom had a phone on the wall that if I needed to go hold my child, I would call the office and the office would patch me into the, and teachers would say, hey, Johnny, you got to come take a phone call.
Yeah, your mom's on the phone. You're like, what? What do you need?
So, I mean, yeah, maybe that doesn't work so well at lunch or whatever, but maybe we start issuing kids pagers like we used to and let them get a page that says, hey, come to the office for a phone call,
I don't know that they still have those phones. I'm assuming that they still do right in the classrooms.
Yeah,
where
I
you
think
would
so.
Bing and say, hey, I'd send such and such Johnny over to their parents are here to pick him up, right? And I got to tell you that if my kids, I'm having to pick them up for an appointment or something that they have, I'll text them both. And funny that I'll get a response from my older, but I won't get it from my youngest. And she'll tell me, well, I can't use it, Dad. I have it in my backpack. And I go, well, then what's the point of having it, right? I mean, if I need you, then what's the point of it? Well, if you need me, I'm assuming you'd probably go to school and tell them, hey, they need to pull me out of class. And she's right, because that's how we did things. But now I think we see it like, well, you need to have a cell phone. I think we've already ingrained that to our kids, that every kid from the age of 10 and up and older should have a phone by now, because we want to know their location. We want to track them. We want to censor what they do. And it's funny, like back then, I look back when I was a kid and no one ever thought of like ever that a cell phone would even be something that would be that of a distraction, but at the same time a useful tool that we now have to have right now. We're talking watches now, where it kind of reminds us, hey, and tracks our health and whatever, our beat, and whether or not you're getting enough oxygen on your blood or not. But all those things, I mean, like, I would have never imagined that was something that I had to worry about 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I mean, it is what it is. And it was funny that, I saw this comedian, Sebastian Maniscalco, and he said about the phone, when that phone rang, it's like you were like joyful that somebody actually called the house, and you knew that the call was, even my dad would say, you don't answer the call. Mm-hmm. Don't answer the call. I answer the call. I'm the man of the house. I answer the call, right? So it was his duty to answer that call. Now it's like, you look at the phone calls that you get and you just like block them, or they're, it's crazy how we've kind of adopted to this technology. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid of what's going to happen within the next 30 years, but I can already see us, if you thought we had liberty as far as like not being distracted by technology, well, we're going with this new, they call it the quantum computing now, mm-hmm. which exponentially just, I mean, it computes so many things much faster than your standard, zeros and ones. It's going to be crazy, and who knows where we're at in 30 years from now as far as that technology and communication. How do we, well, by that time, I'm not a parent. My kids may have to deal with it, but it's crazy to think that technology's out there.
But I think, too, when you start getting to, like, this kind of, like, restriction, I think, Jose, you alluded to it, it's what's going to be the way around it. Kids aren't just going to give it up. Is it going to be, I get the smartwatch and I can make do my texting here? Oh, do I have the calculator, like you said, that's somehow Bluetooth enabled that I can text on? Oh, I'm just doing a math equation, teacher. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's going to really have to be conditioning kids to understand that they don't need it. My kids bug me. They're, at the age of, like you said, where they start, when am I going to get a cell phone? The question, who are you going to call? It's me and mom. I'll get you a dumb phone. Doesn't need any buttons. It doesn't need anything. It just needs to call us, So it's trying to ingrain the importance of why they want these things. Again, just like the Christmas gifts. Why do you want this? What improvement is it going to bring into your life? If it's simply for contact, then you don't really need YouTube and MySpace and whatever, Facebook and any of these things. You just need a form of communication. Just like I said. I mean, when I was growing up, we had pagers. Pager went off. I didn't have a cell phone. I just knew, all right, I got to find a phone, call dad. What's going on?
And maybe there's you said, issuing every student a beeper, right? Well, what if you issued them just a cell phone? It makes calls and receives calls, and that's it. Hey, you need to make a call home. There it is. But can't text, can't do anything like that. You simplify. I don't know, but no, very interesting. And I think as a parent, we try to. I think you're right, Jose. We found a way to really be in our kids' lives more, and I tell my wife that all the time. Like there's a lot of kids that don't have parents watching their every move, or don't have them showing up to every game or showing up to every event. And for the most part, they turn out just fine, and my parents didn't know my every move, and you kind of navigate through it. It kind of makes you find yourself in the wrong side of town sometimes, or things like that, and you're like, okay, let me make my way back, And now the kid doesn't have the opportunity to make their way back because you're pulling up in the minivan, like, get in the car, what are you doing over here,
I think we've become very, we've isolated our kids to a point where we feel that, I don't know, I feel like sometimes it's done, I hate to say systematically. I don't think it's done in a way that was planned, but I mean, these are the effects of watching this, going through this. Essentially, you see it so often that subconsciously you start thinking, well, I got to protect my kids. Mm-hmm. No matter what, I'm going to go out there, pick them up. Like, there's no way they're walking back home. Yeah. So there's times that I can't pick up my son. I said, hey, just walk home. Back of my head, I'm thinking, man, what if he gets run over? This kid he's never walked the streets, the sidewalks. What if he doesn't see and he gets whacked? It's like that kind of thought goes through my head. But I mean, we went through that process. Yeah. I kid you not. We used to cross over highways, And sometimes, you know, I think looking back on how lucky we were that we didn't get struck by a car. But I mean,
Or that would be like a carriage wagon, right?
you know, it was
Back
just
in
crazy
your
to,
days, no?
to think all that. But I mean, I think at that moment as kids, I mean, this is one thing the guy says. Well, that's the incentive of a kid, that if he falls a certain way, I guarantee you he won't go down that rabbit hole again. If he does, and that kid's not going to make it. And that's how life. I mean, this is a comedian's way of saying that. This is how life kind of, you know, keeps those stronger ones to continue to survive,
natural
right?
selection, yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's the case here, but I look back and know, how did I just not get hit? Well, I think back then I was smart enough to know that if I knew that a car was coming at 100 miles per hour, I wasn't going to try to jump in it. I mean, I was a daredevil, but I never thought that I could get away with it. But like I said, in the back of my head, I'm always thinking of, well, what if this, what if that? And I think that's driven us as parents to say we have to protect our kids a lot more. And sometimes that could be a bad thing. That could potentially.
But imagine going to the next degree, like you're saying, we're monitoring, you know, your phones and their internet. Why not put a patch on them and monitor their blood and their content? And, you know, are they drinking? Oh, it gave me a notification. He got an alcohol level that went up, or, you know, marijuana, or, you know.
There's
I mean,
that's that. Yeah.
If that starts becoming a thing, are you going to slap a patch on your kid?
Is there an app for that? Because I'd like that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
There
actually.
probably is, you know. But I mean, is that the point of parenting, to be so there and almost untrusting of your child that, oh, I need to get an alert, you know, oh, he just took a sip of alcohol. Where is he at? Let me go kick his ass, you know, like, I'm like, is that where we're really going? Or do we realize as adults now that you go through those and you hope to just, you know, have your kids know that if you make that decision, make it smart. You know, if you're going to be doing these things, be smart about it and the consequences of it, but not so much. I mean, you might as well just homeschool them and lock them in your house and never let them out if that's your concern. You
And
know?
as you say that, I think, like, you know, I mean, all of our technology, it's always built for the military first, right? The military gets to explore it.
Yeah.
They get to utilize it, and then it's you know, commercialized and sold to the public. And I can see a patch like that on, you know, I mean, you kind of see that already with like astronauts and, you know, special forces. They know, I mean, it's on TV, you know, they're already showing, you know, the heartbeats elevated, all the kind of stuff. But man, you know, athletes in college, you know, those are prized possessions, you know, and they already have, you know, pretty strict, a lot of restrictions on what they can and cannot do, special activities that they can't do because they need you healthy, they need you performing, right? So why not stick a patch on? You know exactly where you're at and exactly, you know, the water consumption. And one could look at it like, no, we want to make sure your sugar levels are good, your water intake's good, you know, all of that stuff. But really, there's also going to be a disciplinary to that as well, right? So now you sign that full ride scholarship, but you're also signing away your, you know, a lot of other rights, you know, but and we as people, sometimes we are willing to forfeit it just to get what we want. And Rohi was saying earlier, I don't want to say the app, but he doesn't use a certain app because of the tracking policies, right?
Yeah.
And but me and Jose have the app, and we're like, whatever, yes, I agree. Like, hurry up and give me the app, right? Because I got to do what I need to do. And so, you know, that's the fine print, right? The good old fine print.
You know, I know that we started off talking about Christmas, and I wanted Abel pull up the stats here that we have, and this kind of goes to last year's consumption for Americans, right? But it's a good thing to look at, and Abel, if you want to just go through that and tell us, you know, what Americans, and this information, so that you know. It's being brought to you. Some of this data is being extracted by the National Retail Federation, right? So, and this is kind of somewhat about what Americans spent last year. But this article was written on December 10th, so just recently, and this kind of gives us some stats, right? So, again, Abel, what does it look like?
I'm gonna go ahead and let you read it, Jose, because it's about this little on my screen there.
and if you can see it, then it says a key 2023 American Christmas spending stats. So. One is that Americans spend approximately $900 on Christmas each year. So on average, right? That's just saying. And then 71% of U.S. holiday budgets are assigned to gift purchases, right? U.S. holiday sales have grown year over year for over a decade. 96% of Americans buy gifts for their families. And that's pretty much it, right? And Deloitte estimates that Americans spend over $500 a year on non-gift items. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced that there, but I'm assuming that's seems like a French pronunciation, but I'm going to leave it there. Canadians spend nearly $1,000 more than Americans during the holidays. On average, men spend 10% more than women on holiday purchases. The highest spending Americans over the winter holidays are aged 45 to 54.
Not there yet. Good.
I'm not there yet. Look, I don't think I do, but anyways, maybe I'm the Grinch here. The Northeast outspends the South by $100 per person each year, and gift cards are the most popular. And then 48% of Americans begin Christmas shopping before October.
Jeez.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
I mean, that's kind of some stats for us here. And it seems like Christmas, we talked about this before, is the holiday of the major holidays, right? I mean, is there another holiday like this where you're going to spend this kind of money? Yeah. I think people gear for this with their sales and their, their end shelves where they're putting all these things out there. Grab one of these, grab a card, grab this.
Well, I'll ask this question. Religion aside, I mean, it's hard to say religion aside, it's Christmas, right? That's a religious holiday. But if you were to say just from a non-biased, neutral position, considering the timing of Christmas being in the dead smack of winter, right? And Rohi said, it's not that cold here in the Central Valley. But, you have blizzards and stuff going on throughout the country. Is Christmas necessary for the psyche of people in general, right? Does it do more good than it does harm? We talk about the debt, we talk about people feeling, financially strained and those things, but overall, it seems to be doing something very positive for people in order to get through this dark, gloomy time of the year, right? Seattle, Washington, and, known to be gray, have some of the highest suicide rates out there, right? Because of lack of sun. And there is a correlation between that, and so is the lights and the joy and the family and the community interaction, is that necessary? Is the commercialized necessary? Is it saving lives for people who otherwise might find themselves in deep depression?
So, I mean, I would say then what you're saying is the best gift to give is the gift of vitamin D.
Yeah.
Stop giving presents and just giant vitamin D packets. But I mean, in some, I don't know if they had that stat, but I mean, I think one would be to look at what do Americans spending on travel? I know we're spending $900 in gifts, but a lot of people are traveling and maybe taking a vacation of some kind, and is that adding to some of that? And because like you said, I mean, giving a gift versus, let's say, we don't normally go to Hawaii, but instead of buying a gift, let's all go to Hawaii this Christmas. Would that be more lasting than the new iPhone?
That might be that memorable.
So, I'm going to throw a theory out there because you guys brought up the sun, vitamin D, and what have you, right? But think about this. Before the 1950s or even 1940s, were Americans spending the amount of money and considering maybe trips, not necessarily to Hawaii, but other places to try to celebrate that, I think there was a period when, we had our, I won't say it, industrial revolution, but we were able to create products at a mass amount that created comfort for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, let's get down to the basics of what a human needs were, right? And you needed sun because you needed to grow and harvest your food. Mm-hmm. We're nomads and, communities trying to grow something to survive. It wasn't so much, let me go ahead and see if I get enough money, just a little bit more so that I can take that trip. It was enough just to survive. Mm-hmm. So you've pushed forward now, and we've kind of created a lot of these artificial things that we have, artificial, material things that really are insignificant to what we are. But if you really think about it, it comes down to our survival. We have to eat, right? So if you don't have these important factors, like you said, maybe, the sun and stuff, you have to hold yourself out all these months until, again, spring comes again, because now things grow. The sun's out. And I think it's cheer. It tells you, hey, guess what? We're going to eat again. We're going to start harvesting our food for, maybe you start harvesting that food in September, October, but during the months of November, it's kind of gloomy. Mm-hmm. And it starts getting gloomy till December. And hey, guess what? the sun has risen. We're going to eat again. We're going to, and I think that in a way gives people hope that there is light for tomorrow. There is life. There's life for tomorrow, and essentially, we'll that cycle will come again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I'm just being throwing out some theories of what you said, right? But I think that's why people may feel gloomy throughout that time in these areas where there isn't a lot of light. Maybe light is correlated with that because, to that point, I mean, is it depressive? There's depression. I mean, are we going to eat? Are we going to have this money?
Well, you leave to work, it's dark, and you get off work and it's dark, and it's like there's not much to do anything. You can't even go outside and throw a ball around, and so you lose, you end up just sitting inside and trying to stay warm and, eating, getting fat.
But I think the difference, though, and again, taking this from a history lesson from the movies we can watch. So, I mean, because you're not going to find too many home videos from maybe like the 30s and 40s, but to look at learning from just the movies we watch, I feel like Christmas was more about, this person got a doll. That was their one gift for Christmas. This guy got this one toy for Christmas, and that's
the BB gun.
Yeah,
the BB
there was
gun
that item where today it's about, well, Abel, I got to buy you like 10 gifts. Now they're cheaper, and I'm going to get you this cup and a pair of socks.
You, Rohit. You can just leave them at my door. I appreciate it.
But I feel like we've gotten so detached from the fact that if Abel really needed a new pair of glasses, and they're expensive, and that idea of, okay, collectively as a family, we're all going to get a little less this year because Abel really has a need. That's what Christmas used to be more about, where now it's like, oh crap, I have to get him something. All right, I'm gonna get him this little thing here and this pin, and there you go, Abel. Or the worst one that I hate is like you said, gift cards.
Yeah.
Jose, I'm gonna give you a $100 gift card, and you're gonna give me a $100 gift card. We gave each other a present. No, you didn't. You gave me the same $100 I gave you.
Yeah.
So can we do that now? Here
we can. Let me get my $100 out and say I give you.
I'll give you $100 to Monopoly. You give me $100 to
bring it
Red
around.
Lobster here.
Yeah, give it to Roy. Roy gives it to me, and I'll give it to you. And we've satisfied the gift exchange.
We have. I mean that's to me where Christmas has come, is where we're so ingrained in like I have to give, and not realizing that the idea of giving a gift card is not giving it all. It's
the larger. I like that. I like that, Roy. It is a good point, because I remember my grandma told me, man, that used to be. Me and my sister, there was like 10 of them, right? Like we all used to get pajamas, for Christmas. That was our gift, like new pajamas, and we would wear them the rest of the night, and we'd be super excited, But we knew we were gonna get pajamas, but we were happy about it, And she's still talking about it to this day, So it wasn't all the Xboxes and the shoes and all that stuff. My family, we've adopted more of like a gift exchange. Or like a white elephant, rather, right? So everybody brings a gift, and it could be, something, kind of random or whatever. But then we get to kind of watch each other, fight for that. This year, my mom gave everybody $10, $10, and we all drove to a thrift store off of Blackstone, and we drew names, and you had to buy. With that $10, you had to buy, whoever you pick something. And we already did the exchange and stuff, but that was kind of cool because, you walk through it really gave you the understanding of the value of $10, because you're trying to stretch that $10 in order to, get a gift that's going to be custom to that person, And so I think everybody did a really good job. It's like, oh, I always see you with, fancy glasses when you drink whiskey, and so here's your glass, and it's like, well, that's all they had in this little store, and it's all hand me down. But I think if you could find traditions like that, they're memorable. And you said that earlier. You're not going to remember everything. You're not going to remember all of the normal holidays, or the ones that went exactly the way they went the year before, but you will remember those unique ones. Yeah.
Well, before we sign off, I wanted you to show our page, Abel, because I know we've launched this podcast maybe over a year, 2 years. I'm not sure if we're going on 2 years now, but we've been at it for some time. Again, if you don't know who we are and what we do, we're just pretty much just jargoneering, right? And we're just talking about, local, national. We try not to get too crazy and get outside the U.S., but typically topics that are around here that affect us as not only parents, but constituents of our current government and what have you. And we don't try to get too political, but we'd like to give our opinions on what we see, our life experiences and what have you. But this is, just wanted to touch on the fact that we just reached 100 followers. I know it's taken some time, but we were having issues with Facebook to put this out because you need 100 followers if you have a business page to go live. And as of the last week, we reached our 100 followers. So if you're watching, thank you so much. If you watch it for later, again, because you're following, we thank you. And we can't appreciate you. We can't appreciate you more because we feel that you guys already done enough. Share the content. Provide links to them. We want to get more people involved, and we'll start promoting this a bit more. If you want to advertise, get a hold of me, Abel, through a certain comment, or Rohi, and we'll go ahead and see if we can get something going there for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well said, Jose. And gentlemen, it's crunch time. If you haven't got your wives anything for Christmas, you better get out there.
It's on.
Because society will make you look bad
Yeah.
if you don't provide that nice gift. No, just kidding. Well, guys, that's it for this week. You have any comments? You have any feedback, anything that we've talked about today?